What's up, the Generation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by Draftkings. This is the 2025 College Football Bowl Season Betting Preview Part 1. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-host Collin Wilson, in addition to the G5 guys, Mike Calabrese and Josh Nunn, aka Duck. We will have 7 bowl previews. This is the first of 7 that includes national championship, semifinals. Today, we will go through, we can count. Duck's going to give us thoughts on the Celebration Bowl, which really kicks things off between South Carolina State and Prairie View. But we're going to go through the LA Bowl, which is going away. It's the last day LA Bowl ever between Boise and Washington. We'll hit the Veterans Bowl, the Cure Bowl, the 68 Ventures Bowl, the Xbox Bowl, a new bowl this year, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, the Gasparilla Bowl, and the first college football playoff game between Oklahoma and Alabama. When we do part 2 early next week, we will cover the next batch of bowl games. That will also include the 3 other college football playoff first round games. Gentlemen, it's been a wild few days in college football. Sharon Moore is gone. We'll see what happens with Michigan. We had 10 teams in total opt out of bowls, which is why we have teams like Mississippi State, Rice in bowl games with 5 and 7 records. Could look at it one of two ways. I like to take the optimistic view that maybe we get more teams, a higher percentage of teams that care, because the teams that didn't want to be there said we're not going to play. And a team like Mississippi State was 5 and 7, they accepted. Rice, well, there's a good chance because they accepted that they want to be there. Also, a lot of discourse around, there's 2 group of 5 teams in. We have to change everything. They're not going to be able to compete. Stop it. It's not the end of the world. I wanted Notre Dame in over Alabama. But that's why we have spreads. And don't ever, it's one football game. Anyone can beat anyone. People are having this discourse after, and by the way, these power programs poach all the best players from the group of 5. It's okay to let them have their moment. We just watched North Dakota State, a minus 300 favorite to win it all, loses a 24.5 point favorite and get dominated by Illinois State. Upsets can happen. I will still be watching all these games. I love all of the teams. That's my rant.
Are you lobbying for a James Madison win or like Tulane? Like, what are we doing here? Like, we're not.
I will say,
seriously not telling
it's
them.
like the upsets happen in college football all the
Oh my
time.
God.
Like we would have said, no one said. Duck will back me up on this. Did anyone in the world think that North Dakota State was going to lose outright last week?
Nobody.
Nobody. Did anyone think that UMBC was going to beat Virginia as a 16 seed? No, that's the beauty of sports. And by the way, we're not going to talk about this game today. I played some Ole Miss. I'm a little nervous about some of like JMU and Tulane. They're going to use, I think they're going to be overmatched, but they're going to use all this material. This group of 5 hate. We don't deserve to be in there for the next 2 weeks leading up to the game. So we'll see if it leads to any results. But everything that I mentioned, everything else that's going on in the college football playoff world with Notre Dame, and do you have any initial thoughts before we dive into all these games? Breeze, I'll start with you.
Well, first, thanks for having me and Duck, a G5 addition to usually a P4 focus show. Usually it's a safety issue. You can't have us here at the G5 level competing. Shout out to Bud Elliott for that piece of garbage. I think it's interesting. You bring up a lot of the good points, which is all of a sudden Oregon is, the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. They can't lose. There's no way that this game can get mucked up. I didn't watch them get mucked up against Iowa, play with their food against Wisconsin. Oh, it was raining. Oh, they had injuries. Like, I just look at it pretty simply in terms of Oregon, when they run the ball really well, they're a great team. They can beat just about anybody in the country. If you can slow down their running game, all of a sudden things get interesting. James Madison has one calling card. They get the best run defense in the G5. Their numbers in terms of tackles for loss, I don't think they're going to win the game outright. I think this whole narrative, though, that they don't deserve to be on the same field, they're a community college, it's going to be 63 to 3, is ridiculous. And at the end of the day, football fans, it's interesting how they pick and choose. No one's arguing the Pittsburgh Steelers shouldn't be in the NFL playoffs. If they started today, they'd get to host a home game. They're 7-6. They beat 5 teams with losing records in the NFL. Nobody cares because those are the rules. But in college football, as soon as somebody gets something in a current rule system that they don't like, we have to change everything. We have to light this whole thing on fire. Like, there's also the other side of the coin. This is my last piece of it. In terms of Oregon, you should be happy. Your fan base should be happy. You earned the number 5 spot, a home playoff game. You should have the easiest road possible. Potentially, that's James Madison. Congratulations. Where is all this animosity coming from a program that's never won a national title? Just win yourself a bowl game, move along in the bracket, and be happy. And I agree with you, Stuck. Anything can happen. I'm going to be on James Madison plus the points. I think they can hang around for, let's call it 3 or 4 quarters. And then it's just a question of how much does Oregon really want to step on their throat as opposed to, throttle things down in the fourth quarter. So that's my rants. I appreciate it, though. Safety issue be damned. So you got the G5 guys here.
I will say, yeah, I mean, you can adjust for opponent. JMU had like a top 20 defense. You can adjust for opponent with that stuff. I worry about their offensive line. That's my main concern in that game. It's just the size and how they're going to move the ball. But I do think the JMU defense is legit. And by the way, like we're going to let Duke in. JMU would have been favored over Duke on a neutral field. Tulane beat Duke already this year. Anyway, Duck, anything you want to rant about or talk about before we dive into the games?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing regarding the playoff is there would have been nice to have a little more transparency in the 5 weeks leading up to Selection Sunday with the teams that and where they kind of rated. I thought it was kind of an easy cop out once BYU lost to say, well, now that Notre Dame and Miami were stacked side by side, we factored in the head to head. Even though Notre Dame was rated ahead of Miami for several weeks that preceded the selection show. And then only at hour zero did they decide to make the switch and put Miami in and leave Notre Dame out. I felt pretty bad for the Notre Dame constituents there. I thought whatever the end result's going to be is what it's going to be, but provide some transparency and some context well before the last show of the season when you have Notre Dame almost firmly in the field for 4 or 5 weeks and they did nothing to invalidate that position, and then now they're left out on that selection Sunday. I thought was I didn't like the lack of transparency there.
But this is all going to lead to is expansion. And people think more teams is going to lead to less arguments. It's to fewer arguments. It's the opposite. More teams is more arguments. Colin, you got anything you want to add here?
Oh yeah, let's get into this. First off, I don't think the G5 teams have a shot, but I'm already looking forward to next year. If Jed Fish gets this job at Michigan with Bryce Underwood, how quickly does Stuckey run to the window to get a national championship future? Let me just say this is one constant in college football that will never end. Side bitches. So can I just talk to all you coaches out there? Quit sleeping with the staff. And if you are, don't give them pay raises, okay? Take it from an Arkansas alum, grad, donator to the program. Quit sleeping with your staffers. This is what happens. Sleep with anybody else. Don't sleep with people that are being paid by a public university. Can't do that. But is this a good thing for Michigan? I hate to say that out loud. This is
Probably.
terrible for 3 people involved. But they wanted Sharon Moore gone anyways. And
Yeah.
now I think have they been sitting on this, waiting for the Ohio State loss? Have they been sitting on this information, ready to go? And maybe there's more that we don't even know what tipped Sharon off to get to this point. But Michigan was quick to react, to get done with him. It's Kalen DeBoer. It's Jed Fish. They're going to throw boatloads of money at him. It's Jed Fish to Michigan and Bryce Underwood as a quarterback is a coup. A
Or
coup.
DeBoer? Is it DeBoer if Alabama goes down to Oklahoma? We'll talk about that game later. There's rumors that DeBoer's not happy.
Well, I don't know what if that is better than Florida pulling off Buster Faulkner. I'm telling you, there's some things I'm ready to hit the board for 2026. There's already big things happening.
All right. By the way, we will put in all of these bowl previews. We will put together our DraftKings parlay, which is our favorite bet from the bowls that we cover. 15 to 1 shot at the end of the show. Each will throw in one piece. And if you haven't checked out at Playbook on Twitter, make sure you check that out. New automated bot from Action makes your betting life so much easier. Automate your bet slips. If you like a bet, just at Playbook. If you want to create a bet, it's really easy for parlays, player props, makes everything so much easier. All right, let's get into it. Before we get to the main courses, we do have the Cricket Celebration Bowl, which will kick things off Saturday, noon Eastern on ABC in Atlanta between South Carolina State and Prairie View. Prairie View, I think, is a small dog here. Duck, we need your thoughts.
Yeah, fun game that pits the SWAC champ against the MEAC champ. The turnaround for Prairie View A&M this year, specifically defensively, is absolutely stunning. Tremaine Jackson, their head coach, and DC Brian Anderson have done an unbelievable job with turning around a complete FCS bottom feeder program and getting this defense to where they're currently at, allowing just 267 yards per game and 16 points per game given up this year. The Panthers are allowing just 128 passing yards, and they have just 8 passing touchdowns against them, surrendering just 28% of third down conversions, and only half of the trips into the red zone have resulted in touchdowns. They're a real buttoned up unit. South Carolina State is not a strong running team, just 3.6 yards per carry on the ground this season. No ball carriers have over 500 yards cumulatively this year for South Carolina State. Their quarterback, William Adkins, is special, but I definitely think that Prairie View's defense is able to neutralize their passing game and limit what the Bulldogs want to do offensively. Prairie View should be able to run the ball here. They're going to deploy a real heavy ground attack here, almost 2-to-1 run pass ratio. Nothing wowing in the pass game for Prairie View, but these guys don't make mistakes, and Peters has been pretty accurate in throwing the ball here. Prairie View is going to win this game.
And you lean under as well?
I would lean under. Yeah, pace of play will be slow. A little bit of a fast track in the with the setting and the environment, but Prairie View's going to operate at a slow pace. They're going to run the ball. Their defense will control things here. I don't think either one of these teams gets much more past 20. I would assume that the winning score is 24 or 27. So yeah, I'd lean under 51 and a half, 52 and a half. I'd lean under.
Colin, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, I love Prairie View A&M. If you look at their quarterback, he's everything. Cameron Peters, last game 100 yards 100 yards on the ground while throwing for 294. If you want props, Josiah Rockwell is your guy. He is going to be large in this bowl game. He averages 3 yards per route run. That is amazing. But I'll echo what Duck said. Prairie View ended the season third in total defense in FCS. That is going to be a big factor here against South Carolina State.
All right, before we get to the main course, I'll throw it to myself for a quick word from our sponsor, DraftKings. The Big Bets on Campus podcast has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BBOC when signing up and bet $5 to get 200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours. All right, let's get to the bucked up LA Bowl between Boise State and Washington. This is the last LA Bowl. Did I see that right? I think.
Yeah, no more Gronk dancing or singing or anything, right?
There's no more Bahamas Bowl. Now we're not going to have the LA Bowl. Bucked up. I don't. It's like supplements. What do you like? Deer?
Yeah, pre-workout, weightlifting supplements, all that stuff.
I
Yeah.
thought it was like the Ray Lewis deer antler spray that helped him and T Sizzle get back from injury back in the day.
There is. That's like kind of
They
their.
have that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
I would
one
assume
team
they
they
have.
have
So they
that.
do have that. Okay, good.
Um, this game Saturday, 8 Eastern on ABC and SoFi, Inglewood, California, Boise State, Washington. Washington's taking some money here, 9.5, 10-point favorites. I know there's a lot of uncertainty with who's going to play in this game. Now, Jed Fish, the Washington coach, said he expects everyone that doesn't have a long-term injury to play. So you had Jonah Coleman, who's their running back's been dealing with an injury, Denzel Boston. Taco Davis, their star corner, he's been out. He said he's kind of iffy on if Davis will play. You also had Esteen, their safety, missed last week. Isaiah Ward last played in week 8. Their center has a cast, Landon Hatchett. He hasn't played since week 11. Jacob Manu, one of their linebackers, he only played 4 games this year because they were preserving his red shirt. I would expect him to play because this doesn't count to your red shirt. Boise State, they got Maddox Madsen back for the Mountain West Championship. Cage Casey, their star tackle, I think he might opt out. He declared for the NFL draft. Anyone else? I don't know. Ty Benefield, their safety, he's a possibility. But it's a tough game to handicap for me because my first thought is Washington wins easily, or rather easily, like 2 touchdowns ish. But Washington didn't travel well all year. And they're hard to rate because, when they stepped up in class, you could obviously tell that they weren't at that same level of your Ohio States, your Oregons. They did take care of some teams rather handily that are in Boise State's kind of price level. But they had so many injuries all year along the offensive line, defense, Coleman, Boston, that it's hard to get a read of number one, who's definitely going to play, how healthy they are, and then what this team's actual level is. And then you had Boise State to play a couple games without Maddox Matson. A couple of them were super ugly. But it's hard for me to see Boise State. If Washington's at full strength and locked in, and based on some of Fish's comments, it does seem that is the case. It's hard for me to see Boise State getting too many stops. And Washington under Ryan Walters did a tremendous job. Like their run D is really good this year. They're using more cover three, and that's what you want to do against Madsen. You want to play more zone, not mad, force him into some mistakes. So I need to see some more about, get some more clarity on who's playing for sure. I would lean Washington, even though I don't show a huge numbers edge. By the way, a quick plug, make sure you check out my bowl tracker, update it hourly for every single bowl, opt-outs, coaching changes, transfer portal news. I mean, just right now, I just updated Brazel, the star receiver for Tennessee, just declared for the NFL draft. UConn's running back just hit the portal. It'll be news throughout, and that's the key to bowl season. So I lean Washington. Duck, you're on the same page there. You would look at Washington.
Yeah, and I was encouraged by what Fish said about how they're kind of rallying the troops and getting all their guys ready to show up and play a football game on Saturday, and it sounds like most of their guys are going to go. Coleman and Boston would be huge for the offensive platoon, and I think they do have some advantages. Eighth nationally in offensive success rate, 16th in securing explosive plays on offense. Washington should gash Boise State routinely. You look at the Boise defense, 120th in allowing explosive rushes, 116th in overall yards per rush given up this season, 107th in red zone efficiency. The Huskies should showcase well here if they're fully equipped. It sounds like they will be pretty close to that. I think that this will be a real strong showing. Boise also in recent priors has been a pretty poor bowl performer. They haven't covered a bowl game since 2018. And I wonder if Maddox, he was able to really grind through the Mountain West Conference Championship. That was clearly a game that meant a lot to Boise State. But if the injury is lingering, is he a full go here for 60 minutes for Boise, or do they end up going back to the backup Cutforth anyway if the game gets out of hand? I really wonder how that game flow will transpire. But either way, I look at Washington, should be a strong offensive performance from them. You look at their point total, would not be out of the realm of possibility for them to be in the high 30s. Can Boise State keep up here against the Washington defense? I don't know if I believe that they can. So I'd be inclined to lay it here with Washington.
Colin, you also agree. And Coleman had a rough year, mainly because of some injuries. At his best, he's one of the better backs in the country. But Muhammad, like numbers wise, if you look and adjust for opponent, he actually was stronger this year. And that's one of the reasons you like Washington.
Yeah, I mean, Muhammad forced more missed tackles than Jonah Coleman this year with less snaps. So, I mean, they have another elusive running back to do that zone read with Demon Williams. So, I mean, Duck kind of touched on this. Boise's bad combination of bottom five FBS ranks and rush explosives allowed and bottom grading and PFF tackling and broken tackles allowed just tells me whoever's running the ball for Washington is just going to have a field day. Washington has a high 64% success rate running zone read, both inside and out, highly explosive, highly methodical, whichever way you can cut it. And this Boise defense is barely over 40% in defending that. And you mentioned what Washington is on the road, but we have to clarify on two West Coast trips, they were actually pretty good, 59-24 over Washington
UCLA.
State. Yeah, UCLA 48-14. It's that time zone hop where Washington had some issues.
Fair.
We don't have that here. I hit Washington at 8 on open. I make it 10.5. I'd still play it at 10.5. I have no feeling of what number I would hit Boise when you're almost dead last in tackling in FBS.
And Breeze, you're waiting on more certainty around players, and then maybe even with Fish too.
I mean, Fish, that the key person here to me is Doug Hendrickson, his agent, because when the rumors were swirling about him being linked to the UCLA job, Hendrickson immediately came out and squashed it, said, "We're not meeting with UCLA. He's not leaving." He hasn't said that about Michigan. And I think the timing couldn't be worse from a pre-bet perspective because if Fish leaves, then if I'm Coleman, if I'm Boston, like, do I just pull the plug and focus on my NFL future? I'm just going to wait for the first drive. I just want to see who actually, I'm not even going to do the whole warm-ups, who's in pads. I want to see who's out there starting the game if their heart's in it. And if so, I may have to end up giving out, 3 or 4 points worth of value to be able to get that look, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because I do think that Washington's the right side here if they're dealing with a full deck. I think it's just a bad matchup schematically for Boise in this one.
All right. By the way, I'm going to track everything here. Colin, anything we both agree on for sure, I'm going to put on our agree board. But for
Okay.
this, for the bowl previews, anytime that there's multiple people who like one side and there's no disagreement, we're going to track it. So we got Washington on the board first. That's not going to be the case here for the next bowl, which is the Salute to Veterans Bowl between Troy and Jacksonville State, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern in Montgomery, Alabama. Troy's been sitting around a 3-point favor, got out to 3.5. Jacksonville State took some money. We got a disagreement here. G5 guy, it's a G5 game versus one of us. Colin versus Breeze. Colin, you like Troy.
Mhm.
Breeze likes Jacksonville State. Colin, I'll let you make your case first. I'll break the tie.
Well, I mean, Jacksonville State has the softest strength of schedule in the nation. So you can look at their stats and say they're a great running team. And sure, there's a lot of highlights that they've got in there with Cam Cook and Creel. But I just, this Trojans defense has been the staple of that team and the reason why they were able to come back and actually win their division. I think they're going to have a lot of success stopping Caden Creel and Cam Cook with the zone read and the counter that they like to run. The Trojans are above average success rate against both of those run concepts with a much tougher strength of schedule. So I would think that the defense shows up here against a Gamecocks team that really has not faced anybody. Troy's going to have some advantages with some pass explosives. I know there's some question on the quarterback. Goose Crowder got hurt in that championship game. Tucker Kilcrease could come in. Neither of those guys are, I mean, one ahead of the other. I mean, they both split starting duties this year. But the big thing is that Troy is actually top 20 in the nation in pass EPA. So they're not methodical. They don't get first downs. They have an ugly offense, but they do hit pass explosives. And Jacksonville State is 79th in giving up pass EPA. So also, you look at what Jacksonville State runs on the defensive end for coverage. They run cover three. As a whole, Crowder and Kilcrease have a mid FBS 47% against that. So it's not like whoever starts a quarterback is going to be at a disadvantage. And then finally, one thing you cannot forget about what special teams are in these bowl games because they make up such a huge part than it would in a regular season game. And Jacksonville State's 125th, Detroit's 56th in SP plus special teams. So a lot of advantages that I see defensively and special teams for Troy.
Breeze, you want to make your case for the Gamecocks?
So I'll go from a quote from Moneyball. If he's such a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? If Troy has such a good run defense, why did they get gouged by James Madison? Old Dominion ran for 351 on the ground. Texas State 326 on the ground. Cam Cook is a one-man wrecking machine. The guy is just absolutely electric. He breaks tackles. He makes explosive plays happen. I've been doubting this team really since the preseason, and I'm done doubting them because we look at it, the preseason power rankings, the TARP, the advanced metrics, all of it rightfully hated this team because it looked like it was misshapen parts being tried to put together with a new coaching staff. And I'll say hands up, I didn't see it working. But they make the run to the Conference USA title game. And stats aside, I think that you just have to start looking at it from a perspective of is Cam Cook good enough to carry them? He was for much of the season, and I'm done doubting them. And on the other side of it, if it is Kilcrease, I'm excited to fade this guy because if you take out his breakout performance against Texas State, who had an awful defense this year, the rest of his games, 55% completions, 4 TDs, 4 interceptions, and he's so slow to process in the pocket. It's why he had the fourth highest sack rate of any qualifying quarterback in the entire country. So they're going to be able to get after him, get them behind the sticks. I think this is a game that kind of plays into Jacksonville State's hands if they can run the ball. And I'm sorry, I know that the advanced metrics, certain concepts and certain run plays, they do look a little bit better for Troy. But when you're giving up 300 yards multiple times and you're coming off an extra game against James Madison, you didn't have this long window to recover and to recoup after getting absolutely shredded on the ground. I don't see how all of a sudden they're going to become a passable run defense. So I'm going to go and take the points here. I loved it at 3.5. I'll still take it at plus 2.5. I think Jacksonville State ends up winning outright.
All right, I'll break the tie. Sorry, Colin, I'm going against you. I like Jacksonville State here. Running dog. I love running dogs in bowl games. And my only concern why I haven't bet this yet. And by the way, I will say in bowl season, just a little piece of advice. If there's like a -1, if there's a favorite that's like -1 or -1.5, try to find a cheap money line. If there's a +1.5 dog and you're like, oh, let's take the money line, take the +1.5 because more so than the regular season, these games don't mean no one wants to go to overtime, right? Unless you're fucking Fresno and San Diego State and I have the under and they go to 3 overtimes. But they're a lot more likely to go for two at the end. And if they tie it and games have a chance to end on one. I don't know. It's something to throw out there. The only thing I'm worried about, so I think that you want to attack Troy on the ground. And that's what Jacksonville State's going to do. And I do think Jacksonville State's pass defense is better than their run defense. They can get after their opposing quarterbacks. And the Troy offensive line is so bad. They lost their tackles early in the year. They can't pass protect. They can't run the ball. Their starting running back Meadows is in the transfer portal, but they can't run the ball anyway. This is the Troy offense. It's either a 25. They have good receivers like Rawa Thomas and company, but it's either a 20-yard pass, a -1 yard run, or a sack. It is just such an inefficient offense. I my only concern. So I actually like the matchup for Jacksonville State. The Troy offensive line is just absolutely abysmal. Is Cam Cook? He's probably the most valuable running back in the country to his team. Backup isn't that good. I mean, look at his yards after contact. He led the country in rushing. Uh, does he get? Isn't he good? He was at TCU, then came to Jacksonville State. Is he going to transfer up again? Does he hit the portal? Does he not play? I don't know. That's my only concern because then it's
Or
just
or is this a showcase game for him to go to the NFL draft?
it could
Yeah.
be. Yeah, I'm saying that's just my only concern here. Uh, but I'm going to side with you at Jack State. My one concern, so I'll go into bowl season with some like overarching theses. One of them is Conference USA might be way worse than I even think,
Might
right?
be.
So
Way
no, I mean like I
bad.
know that they're bad, but like how bad, right? Because they played each other and look, Jacksonville State and Western Kentucky, and Kennesaw State were in the Conference USA Championship. Each could have lost like 3 or 4 times. Jacksonville State was in like Sam Houston. They won on like a walk-off field goal, 52-yard field goal. So like Conference USA, it just might be worse than I even think. So I'm trying not to play too many Conference USA teams, especially until I see one or two play as a measuring stick. Jacksonville State as a running dog might be the lone exception. But let's go to the Cure Bowl between Old Dominion and South Florida, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern in Orlando, Florida. This line has been all over the place because there's been a lot of news. It opened above 7. It came down, started to drift back up, and then came down to sitting at 3.5 now. South Florida is favored. Lots of news in this game. Byron Brown. Oh, Byron Brown. Remember last year? He was a decoy. He cashed for us he didn't cash for us, he didn't play. It was Bryce Archie. But is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is he going to play? And then he dressed and then didn't really play. The classic Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Eve. So Byron Brown's, this is his 4th year at South Florida. The first year, he didn't make a bowl. The second year, he started a bowl. Last year, he was a decoy. This year, he's going to be a coach. So he opted out. He's going to be an assistant coach. And they probably need him to be an assistant coach. Obviously, they would prefer for him to play. I think he became the 12th quarterback in NCAA history to throw for 3,000 and rush for 1,000 as a quarterback in a season. But he's not going to play. He might go to the NFL. He might transfer to Auburn. The Bulls have no offensive staff left. Golish went to Auburn, brought his coordinator, quarterback coach, offensive line coach, wide receiver coach. It's like a bunch of low-level assistants running the offense. Old Dominion, their starting quarterback, Colton Joseph, he opted out and said he's not going to play in the bowl. He hit the transfer portal. So you're going to get Quinn Heineckel. Is that his name? Quinn Heineckel?
That's right.
Who did start last year and ran for over 200 yards against, I think he ran and passed for 200, but it was against Arkansas State, who did not have a very good defense. So a lot of news here, like the coaching, no coaching quarterback, no offensive coordinator for South Florida. They do get to play in Florida. Old Dominion, no quarterback. They do have a freshman who did start as a true freshman. What do you make of this game? I played Old Dominion. I played them plus 7.5, plus 7. I'd still play them right now. South Florida, I expect some more opt-outs to potentially come. There might be more guys following goalish. Byron Brown is so valuable. I don't think we really just obviously he can hit the deep shots, but with his legs on third downs, fourth and ones, the sneaks, the him fighting for yards, breaking tackles, making plays. And now you have an offense. He's calling the offense for Gaston Moore. I mean, Gaston Moore was at Tennessee. He's a career backup. He walked on and then followed Golish to be a backup. He's going to get the start. I would have South Florida, I think, would have more upside if they went with Lecklin or whatever his name is, the true freshman who threw a touchdown pass in a game against Boise on a fake punt earlier this season. But yeah, it's hard to read too much with Heinickel because it was one start against Arkansas State, but running quarterbacks can give South Florida issues. I think Old Dominion can run the ball, running dog here. I'm not sure how locked in South Florida is. I mean, Brown's not playing, there's no staff. I think the Monarchs get it done. Duck, you're on the same page?
Same page, yeah. I think we'll see the doctor's notes and the opt-outs continue to come. The staff is no longer there. Now your quarterback is opting out. You're also going to be missing key pieces like your explosive receivers, Nimrod and Christian Neptune, that are not going to play in this one. This is one interesting element of handicapping bowls is it's very important to understand and determine if a team is motivated or not motivated to be there. Do these players want to go through an extra 15 bowl practices? Has the staff moved on to their next gig? Does South Florida really want to be there? And then on the Old Dominion side, you look at a guy like Ricky Ronnie, who's been at Old Dominion now for 6 years, has never won a bowl game. So I think this is really one of these chances for Old Dominion to really step up and finally get big for the program, right? You get the extra bowl practices, but this program is one that really does need to get a bowl win under Ricky Ronnie. I like the fact that the running quarterback is going to be in there, and he played a little bit last season. Yeah, I think if you're trying to handicap this strength on strength, of course, South Florida's more talented if everybody's in there and they have a little bit better scheme when they're fully equipped. But what sort of shell of a team are we going to see for South Florida? Who's not going to be participating? At the end of the day, does anyone really care to be there or not? Hard questions to answer, but it's an important part of the cap. And this is one where I think it really matters. The last thing I'll say is, with the spread now getting down into that 3.5, 4 range, it's easy and tempting to want to take the points here, but you're really trying to assess and pick the winner of these bowl games. 34 times in the last two bowl seasons has the underdog against the point spread won the game outright. It happened 15 times in 2024. It happened 19 times in 2023, where the dog won the game outright. So essentially, you're trying to pick the winner with the spread like this. I think Old Dominion on the money line, there's value. I played it couple days ago. I'm on the Monarchs here.
Also, I will say, I do. This is just a personal. This is just preference. Will bet I'll bet like 8 to 10 bowls early. They'll usually move in my direction a big. I'll usually go for it. Might be live, it might be pregame. I'd usually go for a tiny, maybe a tenth of a middle, just because we mentioned motivation. I follow this as close as anyone and track everything. There's been times where I'm fully convinced that this team cares, this team doesn't, and it's clear from the first drive that the opposite is true.
And it does not change in game. That motivation thing does not change
you
in
can
game
see
in
on the
these bowl games.
sidelines, you can see the effort on the field. So, and you have to accept that in bowls. Like even if you could beat a close by a touchdown and then you're dead as soon as the game starts. You have to just move on. Like these bowls are so much about motivation. And then there's going to be a lot of bowls where right before kick, there's going to be a list, and it's 8 guys no one knew are out, and you just got to live with it. And that stuff evens out over time. But you got to move on and just be like, you're going to look so dumb, especially if we do this on a podcast. You're going to look so brilliant on some games and so dumb on others. But that's bowl season. Enjoy it and move on to the next. By the way, whether you want to if you want to follow and tail us on Old Dominion, we'll have quick slip links available for all of our best bets at actionnetwork.com/bet now. You can also find a link in the episode description. Colin, you're going to disagree here.
Yeah, I am.
You're just fighting everyone today. You're going with
Yeah.
USF,
I
Gaston
mean,
Moore.
nothing's changed in my handicapping style in 10 years. I just go into a bubble, and when I come out, people's like, I I don't listen to anybody.
Gaston, you come out of your bubble and you're like, I
Uh,
gotta back Gaston more.
Look, I think it's time to put down a PSA to everybody out there betting bowls. What Stuckey said is completely right, and don't chase. Like if a team gets down, unless it's the Toastery, the famous Toastery Bowl or
Yeah,
whatever.
Old Dominion
Old
hasn't
Dominion,
won a
yeah,
bowl because they blew a 30,
let's
28,
talk
7
about Old
lead to Western
Dominion, huh?
Kentucky.
You're gonna back a
Hey,
team
Ricky
that
Ronnie, you
blew.
owe us. Calabrese, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to throw a shout out to Heinickel. He played down the road for me at Downingtown West. Go Whippets. But he hasn't started, in a whole calendar year, pretty much. And Arkansas State in 2024 was horrific on the ground. They couldn't stop anybody. So I don't really put much stock in that. And I agree with Colin's assessment. We could see musical chairs at quarterback. You could see them be deep in their bag. I mean, essentially, Byron Brown is going Lance Harper from Varsity Blues, and he's going from quarterback to coach. Who's going to stop him from, pulling out all kinds of tricks and doing Wildcat and all kinds of different elements? Like, this is a huge mystery box in terms of play calling. I think you can throw out the run pass ratios, everything that we know about the coaching staff. So, at the very least, it's an in game play for me. I want to see what's going on because there's a lot of mystery elements to this game.
Running dog for me with the Monarchs with a running quarterback, which is what I like. You can get some threes out there. There's some flat threes out there, Colin. All right, let's move on to the 68 Ventures Bowl between Louisiana and Delaware. Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern in Mobile, Alabama. Do we have a no fight here? This is like Delaware, tough team to figure out. Like they had some. I like Minicucci. I like some of their receivers and their
They petered
weapons.
out. They
Yeah,
petered
I mean, I
out.
think that they might have wait, but the opposite was true for Missouri State. Like just transitioning up, and then I thought that they might have worn down. They had some just head scratching blowout losses. Like they lost 52 to 14 to Wake. That's fine. But what happened against Liberty? They lost 59 to 30 to Liberty. Um, They had a miracle win against La Tech. They probably should have beat Western Kentucky. They won at FIU by 22. This is a Jekyll and Hyde team. They lost at Sam Houston late in the year. Then they beat UTEP 61 to 31. Obviously got the benefit from a lot of turnovers. Then you look at Louisiana, another team that like yeah, and by the way, this is Delaware like Conference USA. Do I really want to play them? But Louisiana, they beat Ark State by 4, the goal line stop. They beat La Monroe in overtime by 3 to get bowl eligible. They beat Texas State by 3. They beat uh, Marshall in double overtime, 54 to 51. They went 4-0 in one possession games in conference play. Three of those teams didn't even make, well, two of those teams didn't even make a bowl. Lunch Winfield took over at quarterback. They want to run the ball. That's what Louisiana wants to do. Delaware really wants to throw the ball. They aren't that effective at running it. Their running back Silver's questionable with an injury. I don't see too much news in this game. Delaware has some injuries. I mentioned their running back. They had a couple guys who haven't played since week 11. They're one of their tight ends, one of their linebackers, they're one of their guards. Louisiana was missing their center in the season finale, and their free safety Tyree Skipper, who's a decent player, he got reinstated. He was suspended for a brawl earlier this season. The Sun Belt reinstated him for this bowl game. Lunch Winfield did leave the finale with an injury. Walker Howard took over, but he did come back for a couple plays at the end, so I think he should be good here. This is a tough
Five,
game.
five star,
What
five
are you
star
seeing,
Walker
Don?
Howard. 5-star Walker Howard.
5-star Walker Howard. This is a tough game for me to crack. Colin, what are you seeing here?
I like Louisiana, not because there's like glaring stats you can take advantage of against Delaware. Like I said, like Delaware just kind of faded at the end. Minicucci wasn't as efficient, made a lot of mistakes. And then defensively, Delaware finished 120th in defensive quality drives and 114th in defensive finishing drives, which means everybody gets a methodical and everybody gets at least 4.5 to 5 points every time they get past the 40-yard line. Massive EPA advantages here for Louisiana, which means there's going to be a lot of chunk plays, whether it's on the ground or through the air, probably on the ground, because that's what Louisiana is. All zone read. They like to mix in some 12 with outside zone, two tight end sets. That might be a little bit too much for this Delaware defense to take care of. And Delaware is more of a passing team with Nick Minicucci, and ULL's defense is much better defending the pass. I mean, they're not great at anything, but they're better at defending the pass than they are against the run. And when I mentioned like Delaware kind of petered out at the end, they lost 5 of their final 8 games. I mean, their wins came against 2-10 UTEP and 3-9 Middle Tennessee. So either there's one of two things going on, or maybe both. One, either this roster didn't have enough depth for an entire FBS schedule, or two, the playbook got out on them and the coaching staff never changed what they were doing. Either way, I don't think either of those things are going to like be rectified before this bowl game, and I'll take a stronger conference with ULL.
Yeah, to play devil's advocate, I mean, maybe they did wear down because they play fast too, which probably didn't do them any
Yeah.
favors after transitioning up. So maybe to make a case for Delaware, there was a point in the season where I thought Delaware was the best team. It was early, but in the Conference USA, which isn't saying much, but there's not much separating a lot of these teams. Maybe the break helps them. I know that they'll be motivated, right? It's their first year transitioning. Oh, I'm not worried about Delaware showing up. Duplessis, I love one of their receivers. But you're right. Louisiana wants to run the ball. Sampson is their big play receiver, but Winfield kind of unlocked the running game with his legs once he took over at quarterback. Nothing is great for Louisiana, but I don't know. I'm struggling with this one. Speaking of pace, that's one of the reasons you like the over, Calabrese.
Yeah, definitely on the over. Everything you brought up in terms of pace, they just left their defense out to dry. You saw it against Liberty, Jacksonville State, UTEP, UConn. Huge yardage given up, a lot of points, very high scoring games. They ran out of gas. But on the other side of things, like this this Louisiana defense, from a pass rushing perspective, they're outside of the top 110
You
in
get no
terms of
pressure. Minicucci's
they
gonna have
get
all day.
and Minicucci, like if you zero in on his stats in a clean pocket, 19 passing touchdowns, over 70% completions in those clean pocket scenarios. I think he's going to pick them apart. I do think, we have to read the tea leaves a little bit. I think Lunch is healthy. I think they were just, being cautious in the game, but the fact that he came back in the last game that they played is a good sign. I see this one just being an absolute shootout, and it's two teams that clearly care about being there. Louisiana was trying to keep, Desermo's bowl streak alive in terms of appearances. They did it. They won the last four. They had a scratch and claw and, win some ugly games. They did it. And obviously for UDEL, huge accomplishment. First year at the FBS level, when they started the season, they weren't bowl eligible per the NCAA, and then they squeezed their way in, with some of these, tiebreakers and, things that went in their favor in terms of not enough teams being available. So on paper, at least, I think we always have these caveats. Like it could just be one of the teams doesn't care and this play is dead from a total perspective. But at least narratively speaking, they both should be really interested in playing 60 minutes. And if they play their brand of football, Delaware is going to play really fast. And I think their defense is going to be absolutely gassed in the second half again. And that's when the or the Louisiana run offense should be able to pop something.
Yeah, I will say I do like the Delaware defense a lot better against the run, and Louisiana wants to run it. So maybe that helps Delaware a bit. I mean, Louisiana, you talk about wanting to go to a bowl. They hosted La Monroe's, won 3 games. They got outgained 516 to 330 in that game. It was not a good look for their defense. And they really benefited from some turnovers down the stretch. So I think Minicucci with a clean pocket is going to be able to move the ball on Louisiana. Duck, do you want to help us out here? What do you got? Any
Yeah,
look?
I mean, I really wish I would have locked in at the window yesterday when it was 57 and a half. We're seeing this all the way up to 60 and a half at some shops. So steam on the over here. Delaware played this season knowing they were ineligible for postseason competition, but holding on to hope that they were going to be able to participate in a bowl if there were not enough 6-6 teams. They even talked about that down the stretch, really trying to get to that sixth win. I'm not worried at all about Delaware showing up with motivation. These guys will be ready to go. Louisiana should also be ready to go, highly motivated. DeSormo's lost their last 4 bowl games. They haven't won a bowl game since
He's
2021.
only covered one.
Yeah, and it's just been a problem with those guys showing up here in bowl games in priors. So, like, you talk about a program that needs a bowl win, that's Louisiana. They've got to get the bowl stink off of them from the last 4 bowl seasons. Tempo will favor Delaware here. Louisiana does not see a lot of up-tempo offenses in the Sun Belt here, so I think with Delaware running some rhythm, getting some tempo, will really serve them well here. The one team that ran tempo against Louisiana was Texas State, and that game saw a total of 81 points. Minicucci went long stretches this season where he was completely locked on, threw for 3,500 yards. Louisiana's defense just 127th in overall defensive success rate, 117th in pass success rate given up, 106th in allowing explosives, and that's where Delaware could feast is by
They love to
getting
take
those
their shots.
chunk explosive plays and connecting down the field. The other thing to say though about Louisiana is while their offense really wasn't great at anything, they scored 30 points in each of their last 4 games. It started to really click here. I think the Delaware defense, you guys hit on this. the talent disparity from them just moving up from FCS, some of the depth kind of took over. I think their defense just started to wear down. But either way, they're stepping up in class here. Both of these offenses should be in the 30s. This should be back and forth. We should get max effort from both teams here who really want to. And frankly, Louisiana needs to win this bowl game. I like over. I like even at current. Go shop around, find the best number, whatever you want to say. But 58.5, 59. Try to be under 59 and go high. But I like the over in this one.
All right, let's move on to a new bowl, the Xbox Bowl between Missouri State and Arkansas State, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern in Frisco, Texas. Guys, a couple of you are going to make a case for Missouri State. I told you earlier this show, if you're laying 1.5, shop around for a cheap money line. There are minus 110s out there. I cannot stress to you enough if you like Missouri State. Don't lay 1.5. I don't know if you already have. I haven't even looked at it. So I'll ask you, Breeze and Colin. No team plays more 1-point games than Arkansas State. If I had to guess, this comes down to a 2-point conversion late. I mean, what do they have? 5 1-point games this year? 4? Last
And
year they had a bunch. All of
and
Arkansas State games. Someone look at their schedule. How many 1-point games did they play this year? Arkansas State games are chaos, and they usually come down to the last play, the last drive. Rayner has it. I mean, you can go back to that FCS game that they should have lost to open the season last year. That they had to announce that the call was wrong. They should have lost. Their games are chaotic, and they always somehow end up on one. I was looking at it the other day. They all their games landed on one more than any team in college football over the past 2 years.
and Butch Jones is 6-1 against the spread in bowls. So you know
He
that
has
going to come
he
in.
has been good. So I'm telling you, if you like Missouri State, I don't have a strong feel in this game yet. Play. This is a team the opposite of Delaware, by the way. They both transitioned their first year. They ascended to end the season, led by. I mean, I thought they were going to be way worse, especially down the stretch, than they actually were. They have a very underrated quarterback running the show. Colin, you like
Yeah.
Missouri State and Jacob Clark to get it
Yeah,
done.
I like Jacob Clark a lot. I like fifth-year senior quarterbacks in bowls, unless their name's Gaston Moore and they've never been a starter. But look, Clark, 13-3 TD to INT ratio over his last 5 games. He's run this Missouri State offense to a lot of points in a lot of games here, and they're top 20 in rush and pass EPA. Give me a lot of chunk yardage, give me a lot of explosive plays, and have this fifth-year quarterback be able to direct them down the field. Plus, he dominates quarters coverage, where you play zone in the back and man over the middle. He's absolutely dominating. That's the one concept that Arkansas State uses on defense. Not that they're a good defense, anyways. They're near dead last in creating a contested catch. Wide open windows for Jacob Clark to throw into here. Missouri State should be down the field all day. And Arkansas State has a heavy pass ratio with Rayner and top 40 in passing success rate, and they have great pass blocking, top 15 in the nation. A lot of that could be their quarterback avoiding getting touched. But at the same time, that's all they've got on the offensive side of the ball. Missouri State is outside the top 100 in passing, so I could make a case there's going to be a lot of points in this game, but at the same time, it's not an efficient Arkansas State offense that has methodicals. They're not as explosive as Missouri State. So I'm going to go with old Springfield, Missouri, just up the road here on I-44 from me.
Duck, I know you have a rant on this, but just to show you, I think Arkansas State, they won by 1 to clinch a bowl. The week before, they lost by 4 to Louisiana. They had the ball at the 2. Against Southern Miss, they lost by 6. They had the ball at the 10 and threw a pick with 5 seconds to go. They beat South Alabama by 1. They beat Texas State by 1. They lost to Kennesaw State in a coin flip by 7. Iowa State, they had the ball late, lost by 1 possession. Their games are chaotic. Duck, you have a rant on the Red Wolves?
Arkansas State is the luckiest fucking team in the entire country this season.
For like 3 years.
Absolutely disgusting. Yes, I had an under 5.5 regular season win total. No, we didn't get to the window. Yes, we should have. The way they beat South Alabama, the way that they beat App State, the way they beat Texas State, they were plus 500 live in game in each one of those 3 scenarios. App State at home going for bowl eligibility, they score a touchdown to go up double digits. It gets called back with like 90 seconds to go. They kick a field goal to go up 6, and then Ark State goes down for the win, scores a touchdown. App State comes back, misses a chip shot field goal, which would have created everything we needed here. You look at
Wasn't
Ark
Ark State
State,
like last year the luckiest team, like in second order win total?
second
Uh,
order win total this year, I think was 3.8.
I know. I'm saying the last 2 years they've been uh, that's been their MO. But I'm just telling you, if you like Missouri State and you have the choice, just always shop around. But if there's right now there's -1.5 out there on Missouri State, but there's also -110 on the money line.
Yeah, you're
Arkansas
absolutely right.
State's due to lose by one.
You don't want the -1.5 either way because one of these teams will score and they'll go for two, and you would lose regardless of the 2 point conversion result. You don't want to lay -1.5 in bowl
No,
games.
no. Calabrese, before I get your thoughts, Duck, you also are rolling with Jacob Clark.
Yeah, I'm on Jacob Clark. I mean, I'm not going to cover all the ground that we already covered, but Rayner is going to give us a chance because this guy loves putting the ball in harm's way. And when you look at it over the last 2 years, he has 38 turnover-worthy plays, which is just incredible that he's been able to stay in the starting role. I know he does a lot of good things, with his legs, but the Bears are 60s in the coverage, pass rush, and 56 in takeaways. I think that's how this game is going to swing. And Jacob Clark is going to get a showcase game. If he throws for like 5 touchdowns and 400 yards, and then has a good combine performance, maybe he sneaks into the back end of the NFL draft on the final day, a 6th-round pick. He's got the size. I know he can't really move all that much in the pocket, but if NFL teams are desperate enough to give a starting job to Philip Rivers, then there's no reason that Clark can't play his way into consideration.
I will say these teams are relatively healthy. There's not much opt-out risk. Missouri State has a couple defenders that haven't played since week 12 along their line. Arkansas State, their left guard, who's really good, hasn't played since week 10. That's about it. Duck, you mentioned this to me right away when the matchups came out. I mentioned to you, I said, Old Dominion, take the touchdown, and you said Ark State under. That was your first thoughts when the bowl matchups were announced. You like the under here?
I do. And if you think about Missouri State, they've been much more balanced this season in their play calling. If you would have seen them play at the FCS level, it was all pass. And this year, 400 passing attempts, 380 rushing attempts. Not good at moving the ball down the field methodically, not good at converting on third down, not good at sustaining drives. And so the question is, can they garner the explosive plays and enough of them to consistently move the ball and give themselves scoring chances? Arkansas State's also been much more balanced offensively this season. They'll run the ball a lot, even though they're not good at it. The Red Wolves just 114th in yards per rush, 108th in rush play success rate, 102nd in explosiveness on the ground. But they're going to keep running the ball here, and we didn't see Rayner as explosive and electrifying this season as in priors. He didn't throw for 300 yards against an FBS team until November 8th and finished with just 16 touchdown passes. A couple other things I like real quick. Missouri State getting a little bit of time with their defense to rest and get a little bit healthier. They went 7 or 8 games this season with their defense after giving up 73 against USC, playing really, really good defensive football. Neither one of these teams can convert on third down. Both red zone offenses are atrocious. Arkansas State, 43 out of 53 trips resulted in scores, but only 28 touchdowns, 15 red zone field goals this season. Both struggle in havoc. Missouri State dead last in allowing havoc against them, struggle to pass protect, struggle with prohibiting negative plays. Arkansas State 110th nationally in havoc allowed. I just expect these defenses to step up and make enough plays to keep this one under. I think we'll see red zone field goals here. Close game, could be a 1 point game, could come down to a 2 point conversion, but I think this one stays under 56.5.
Speaking of unders, let's go to the Myrtle Beach Bowl between Kennesaw State and Western Michigan. Two conference champions facing off in Conway, South Carolina, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll see who wants to get up and play some ball after breakfast. Duck, you just talked about an under. You like the under here. I would agree. My only concern from a personnel perspective, Western Michigan was so healthy all year, and they still are extremely healthy. They don't have any injuries. Like Buckley hurt his hand, but it didn't matter. He ran for like 200 in the MAC title. My only concern is if Nadame Tucker, who's the defensive player of the year in the MAC, who's NFL ready, he had like 62 pressures. Does he opt out? Is there any chance that he opts out? I don't know. We saw Adam Trick hit the portal. I mean, I think Tucker's he's gonna get drafted, and he is unbelievable. I mean, he gets at his first move off the line of scrimmage, he's basically unblockable. And Kennesaw State, they mess around, they go with Dexter Williams sometimes a quarterback, but they're back to Odom. Odom is horrendous under pressure, and you don't face much, and you don't face guys like Tucker and that Western Michigan defense often in that conference. So, and I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. Western Michigan does a good job of limiting explosives, and this Western Michigan offense, like it's it's just it's Army, it's Navy. They're a service academy. They want to go. It's not. I know that Buckley had a couple explosive runs, but generally speaking, it's just 3 to 4, 3 to 4, 3 to 4. We'll have to do QB power on 4th and 1, and then all of a sudden there's 8 minutes off the clock. So I I like the under here as well. I don't think there's going to be a lot of explosive plays. I think the pressure of Western Michigan can get to Kennesaw. Caleb Offord, the cornerback for Kennesaw, he's a potential pro prospect. Even if he misses, I think he's going to play, but it's not a huge deal against Western Michigan and their passing attack, which isn't great. Tucker would be my only worry. Um, that's about it from a personnel perspective, Duck. But you're on board with me in the under here.
Anything over 48.5, I like the under. But Lance Taylor in this program, ascending MAC program, a bowl win would be really big for these guys. Not to discredit the job that the Owls have done with Jerry Mack, huge turnaround for that program after what they did last season. And so I think we're going to get good on good here. I think we're going to get both teams' best football.
Yeah,
But you're
right after
absolutely
conference
right.
titles that they won. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, and you're so right though about the pass rush. And Tucker resembles Khalil Mack, a guy who you could just look at right away and see that he did not belong in the Mac. He belonged in another conference. And if he's a go, this pass rush is really going to create some problems for Kennesaw State. I don't see the Owls running the football very effectively against these guys. And we saw Kennesaw State at times struggle to connect on the explosive passes, throw their way out of 3rd and 12 or so. They just couldn't do it against teams that could get pressure in the face of a Mariota. Western Michigan, you hit it right on the head. It's a service academy offense, and they're very patient. Oftentimes with OCs, when you see 4 yard run, 5 yard run, 4 yard run, 3 yard play action pass to the tight end, well, eventually they get impatient and they're calling plays that don't belong in the script. And now you're in 2nd and 10 and you can't run your stuff. Well, Western Michigan stays patient. They stay to the script. They're very comfortable in
Well,
that
because
sort
they're
of
counting on their defense too. If they have to punt, they're
counting
fine
on the
with
defense. Yeah, and you're so right about the fact that how many times have we seen these Western Michigan drives get all the way down there? It takes 6, 7, 8 minutes off the clock, and then it could end in a field goal, could end in a 4th and 1 stop. They're comfortable trusting the defense. I think that's what we're going to see here. It was interesting. It was brought up with me. I was talking to somebody about being concerned about Western Michigan, a cold Michigan team coming to the beach and being distracted by the warm weather climate. Thankfully, Myrtle Beach is not going to be that warm, so I don't think we're going to have a lot of distractions for Western Michigan. I think they're going to be fully focused here on playing football in Myrtle Beach. Should be a fun game. I'm really looking forward to, but I don't see a lot of explosives. I don't see a tremendous amount of big plays. I think Western Michigan will step up in the red zone and force field goal attempts. I like the under.
a good comparison for Tucker, like Trey Hendrickson, who played at Florida Atlantic, right? So not power conference. Trey Hendrickson's college sack percentage was 4.35%. Tucker's 4.37. Pressure rate, Hendrickson 17%. Tucker 18%. Pass rush win percentage, Hendrickson 30%. This guy all pro. Hendrickson 30% doesn't mean that Tucker's gonna be this, but Tucker's pass rush win percentage 45%. Just I hope he plays. Because then when you have some of these, like sometimes when there's these star defensive ends that sit out or get hurt, there's a trickle down effect, right? Because the amount of attention that you have to pay to them, and these other guys benefit from him being on there. So I think he'll play, but it's something worth noting. He just kills. He'll kill drives. He'll kill 2 or 3 drives with a sack and or like a big run loss. So yeah, I like the under with you. I know that you lean under as well, Calabrese. Colin, you like a side.
Yeah, I like Western Michigan. I mean, for a lot of points have already been discussed here. Western Michigan does not allow explosives at all. Top 35 against rush explosives, top 20 against pass. And that is what Kennesaw State is ultra dependent on. I mean, they're top 10 in the nation in pass explosives, and it's just a really bad matchup for them for what their offense wants to do because they're terrible in the red zone and they're terrible in success rate and efficiency. Then you go to the other side of the ball on the offense, and Brock Lowry and running back Jalen Buckley, they have been very good at running inside zone. You go into the run concept defense of Kennesaw State, 35% success rate against inside zone. Like national average is like 49%. I mean, they are bad defending this type of run that Lowry and Buckley are going to put on them. So could be slow at first, considering the time, considering the place, considering the cold weather. But Western Michigan gets it done.
All right, let's move on to the Gasparilla Bowl between Memphis and NC State Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern in Tampa, Florida. As of right now, mm, let's see. What is this update? Let's see. Hold on, let me pull it up. NC State is let's just come down a little bit. Well, DraftKings NC State's a 5.5 point favorite. Total is sitting at 57.5, 58. News here. Memphis' stud right tackle, Travis Burke, he missed the finale. They've had a couple corner injuries, but the big one is their head coach, Ryan Silverfield, is headed to Arkansas. Yikes. Their defensive back coach, Reggie Howard, will serve as the interim. They hired Charles Huff, who's just going to change schools every year, I guess.
That guy's a poster child. Why isn't Charles Huff in the Airbnb Bowl?
I know you guys are still mad at him and for Southern Miss's meltdown
Yeah.
at the end of the year for that future, which was a good bet. Just didn't get there. NC State, meanwhile, like some of their injuries, their left guard last played in week 12. One of their corners last played in week 12. Their linebacker got hurt early in the year. Uh, Nothing major, but they have some potential opt-outs. Uh, their tight end, Justin Jolie, how I love. And their running back, Hollywood Smothers. Their defensive tackle, Brandon Cleveland, he probably gets drafted. Their cornerback, Devin Marshall, could get drafted. One of their offensive linemen, Peak. So there's some personnel to watch there. If everyone played in this game, also like how healthy is Lewis? I think the time off, he might be healthier, and that'll help the Memphis offense. If everyone is healthy here, which I'm going to try to find out, and we'll keep up to date on my file. Give me the over in this game. This is explosives galore in this game. These are two defenses that give up explosives for fun, and two offenses that can hit explosives. And in a bowl game, that's what I want. If I want to bet an over, I want explosives all over the field. And NC State can't get pressure either. Memphis' run defense is good. NC State's the Smothers will break some runs, but their rush offense isn't that good. They want to throw it, and NC State has all kinds of issues on defense. This game, if everyone plays, all the offensive pieces play, Lewis is healthy. This is an over to me. I mean, has shootout written all over it with explosives all over the place. So that's it. As long as I get confirmation that most of the pieces are playing, Lewis looks good. Give me the high. Let me see. You guys. Breeze, too much uncertainty. You're waiting on some personnel. Colin, you like NC State here?
I do, based on just coaching alone. I mean, you have to. Dave Doran is going to go up against this staff that's been completely depleted by Silverfield
I would
taking on.
argue you upgrade Memphis for losing Silverfield.
Well,
Just
you
my
don't
thought
upgrade the
is
off, you don't upgrade the offense. But I look. Let's save my Silverfield feelings for our first pod next July. I mean, and leaving your defensive back coach in charge, like what does that do to your offensive play calling? Because all they've ever been is zone read concepts with Lewis and Sutton. So I doubt there's going to be anything different. I'm not even sure either of those guys are actually going to play. Brennan Lewis had what, 15 design runs over the last 3 games, hobbled, hurt. I mean, Memphis was just terrible offensively down the stretch, inconsistent. More is really the word. Lost 3 straight to Navy, ECU, Tulane. I mean, this just isn't a good showing for Memphis in the direction that they're going.
that is a valid point. Like, where is Memphis mentally? Right, lose your coach, so there's higher risk of opt-outs, which I'm also
Right.
monitoring. But you lose your coach. They were in position after they beat South Florida to go to the College Football Playoff. Right, they were in control, and then they faded down the stretch. Are they excited here to go to Tampa without their coach? Are there more opt-outs? How healthy is Lewis? There's definitely some questions. The questions on NC State side are like who opts out, but they kind of ascended towards the end of the year. They were playing strong towards the end of the year. So that is a valid point. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is NC State's defense was 63% success rate against inside zone and top 25 against rush explosives. That will play out here because that's all Memphis is able to do on the ground and where their juice is. So, even if Lewis and Smith are healthy, it's not really a defense they want to run into with what they do. So, and by the way, no expectations of Memphis in-game adjustments. Don't look at Memphis being down by 14 and think that this is going to go smooth. So, I would tread lightly when it comes to live betting on the Tigers here.
I will say though, just if Memphis cared and Lewis was healthy, the NC State safeties are so bad they get no pressure. They're, and then there's just going to be explosives all over the field. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's move on to a game where we know both teams will show up. Oklahoma, Alabama,
Mhm.
Friday, December 19th, 8 p.m. in Norman. Alabama at DraftKings, 1.5 point favorite, total 40 and a half. It's a rematch from a game earlier this season. Alabama was a 6.5 point favorite, lost outright, but outgained, doubled up Oklahoma in yards. There are some injury questions. Alabama defensive lineman LT Overton, their running back Jam Miller, tight end Josh Cuevas, defensive tackle Kelby Collins. Oklahoma, their defensive end who might go in the first round, R. Mason Thomas. I think he's going to play. That's pretty big. Their cornerback Gentry Williams, and then they've had offensive line injuries all year. I think Thomas is going to play, which I think is big. This is this is you could make the case that Alabama dominated in the first meeting, which is fair. I don't care. This Alabama team's trending in the wrong direction. I don't know if Simpson's fully healthy. They cannot run the ball, whether Jam Miller's in there or not. I this Oklahoma defense at home at night. And by the way, with extra time to prepare, Mateer gets extra time to get healthier. You give Venables extra time to come up with a game plan against the one-dimensional offense that he's already seen that's trending in the wrong direction. At home at night, the home field here is like 4-1, 4-2, juiced up to the gills. What did we see last year with
Mhm.
these home teams in the first round of the playoff? Ohio State destruction of Tennessee. I think the home teams all went 4-0, right?
Yes, and covered.
And covered, yeah, 4-0 against the spread. Um, so the home field here with that defense, and do not, this is the kicker for me. Do not sleep on the special teams advantage for Oklahoma. Alabama special teams have been a mess. Their kicker is not reliable. You saw the Georgia game. They get a block punt. Oklahoma special teams, one of the best in the country. Tate Sandell, think he's going to win the Luke Rosa. He was worth like 1.5 points to every game. That's how good he was this year. He didn't miss from above 50. Guy is a weapon in a game with a total of 40. That is important. Boomer Sooner. Give me Oklahoma. I will say, little teaser. It's 3 versus 1. One of us likes Alabama. You know that I like Oklahoma. Two others of us like Oklahoma. Colin, are you on my side?
Didn't you take Alabama in our recap show? I was like, we only had two
Well, I
disagreements.
said just off the cuff when I was filling out the bracket but after digging into it,
Okay,
I'm on Sooners.
just checking because I've been pro Oklahoma since the second that
I'm
bracket
putting it
came out.
on
Oh
putting it
yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah,
board.
yeah. Put it on the board. I mean, for me, it's about market entry right now, right? Like I want a juiced money line. I'd like better than plus 100, minus 110. I'd like maybe plus 120 on Oklahoma. You've already said this. I didn't have any notes in the script, but you've already said it. I don't think we've properly assessed what home field advantage is in a college football playoff game after what happened last year.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a factor here with Boomer Sooner. By the way, fingers crossed. I'm trying to get my credentials for this and go cover it for us. Hopefully, I
Oh,
get some
that I mean, it's
insight.
going to be
Yeah,
absolutely
I,
electric there.
I'm
And oh,
not
by the
sure
way,
I'm
I
going to get
updated
in.
my numbers now. Make Alabama a favorite, and I mean, not make Oklahoma a favorite after this past weekend. I have Vandy favored over both.
Oh
Anyway,
God, here we go. This is not a Vandy pod. All right, so I have Oklahoma -2, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot of things going on. You mentioned the injuries, but what you're not mentioning is like even if Jam Miller is healthy, he's not effective. Ty Simpson has never been on this availability report. I think he's hurt. There is smoke, and one of my
his
sources
back.
is
They've always
saying,
were working on his back, and he just wasn't the same quarterback in the last month.
his on target rate has dipped week after week after week. And I think that's more injury related than talent related. Ryan Williams has had that hip issue. I don't think it ever went away. I talked to a scout this week over text that was telling me about his move to the inside from the outside, doing more slot, has kind of gotten into his brain. He doesn't want to cross over the middle. There are problems all over this Alabama team right now. And now there's additional noise in case Michigan gives Kalen DeBoer a call. But outside of that, right? Ask yourself a question. Alabama averaged 1.3 yard net yards per play better than Oklahoma in their own stadium, and they didn't get it done. 11 offensive possessions. The Tide posted two explosive drives. That means 10 yards per play. And they had three methodicals, which means they had three drives with 10 plays. You still didn't get it done against Oklahoma in your own building? I can't get over this box score about how much they screwed it up. And if you want to look at the one big thing, 243 hidden yards. Hidden yards is a direct correlation to special teams, punting, field position, all the good stuff. Um, I know John Mateer only had a single touchdown. He only had like, a couple dozen rushing yards, but it fits into Alabama's chronic issues against mobile quarterbacks. And if Mateer has any kind of game where he runs for 50 yards and has a TD, that's a better advantage than anything that I see coming out of this Alabama offense. This Oklahoma defense, I cannot tell you guys how much. Number one in the nation in defensive rushing success rate, number one in defensive line yards, third in havoc. I mean, these aren't joke numbers. And special teams, let's get down to the rankings. Special teams SP plus for Oklahoma, 21st. That's Tate Sandell, and then 113th for Alabama.
Also, they're going to get I think they're going to get R. Mason Thomas back, who's a first round draft pick who didn't play in the first meeting.
Yeah. Oklahoma advances. We'll see them in the next round against Indiana, which should be an absolute street fight with brass knuckles.
Daly being out for the year, that's a shame. He got hurt in the celebration. That's big for Indiana because they already lost Wyatt. Signetti, who just pores over film, finds these guys. He got Daly from Kent State. He got CJ West from Kent State. This is a team that didn't win any games 2 years prior to this, and he got drafted playing for the 49ers. I mean, Sig finds these guys, but that was unfortunate news for Daly. Stephen Daly, who was incredible against Ohio State. But yeah, that would be a street fight. And joining us on Oklahoma, Duck. Welcome.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at Oklahoma, and it hasn't been good football since that loss against the Sooners about 4.5 weeks ago. You can't run the football. Just really a bad place to be on the road in the CFP when you can't run the ball, you can't sustain drives on the ground. And now you're giving Venables 2 weeks to prepare for this passing offense with that defense that is elite in creating pressure, garnering negative plays. 115 tackles for loss, 42 sacks registered by Oklahoma this season. The defense, second nationally in yards per rush, first in rush play success rate. Alabama's not running the ball on these guys. Doesn't matter who's back
Nothing.
there in the backfield. Third in overall defensive havoc, fifth in red zone efficiency. With Alabama, there's just going to be nothing easy running or passing the ball here. And you look at the time off for Oklahoma, which could really help them getting healthier a little bit defensively, getting some O-line pieces back. Both the running backs, Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock, should come back healthy.
Mateer, too. I don't know if he was ever fully
Yeah, and
healthy.
Mateer. Yeah, and the hand. Longest stretch of time for John Mateer since the hand surgery where have been able to recover and kind of get that fixed. So for all the problems we've seen from Oklahoma, and I think we can all agree that when you watch the product on your television set, it doesn't look great offensively for Oklahoma, but that defense has had zero issue. They've been lights out all season. I think they show up ready to go here. Venables has just had the upper hand against DeBoer, offense versus defense, good on good. I think we'll see it here at home as well. That home playoff atmosphere is very real, and it's a pick 'em. Don't have to lay any points, just win the game. Yeah, that's what I want to be on here is Oklahoma on the money
And
line.
the special teams, don't sleep on the special teams. And by the way, do we talk the DeBoer on the road? And this Alabama team for years they should have lost at South Carolina. Luck box win. They should have lost at Auburn. They get the fourth down. They get all the turnovers. They get outgained by 140 yards. They lost at Florida State. I mean, this team has not been good on the road for years. walking into a buzzsaw here. Calabrese, you're going against the crew. You're roll tiding.
I am. I'm roll tiding on this one. So Alabama can't move the ball in this Oklahoma defense, right? Somehow they move the ball 400 yards of total offense. They lose the turnover battle 3-0. I mean, you basically coined this phrase, Stuck. Luck box. No one's overcoming a negative
It
three
was a luck
turnover
box
margin.
win for Oklahoma. Yeah, I'll give you that.
So just putting that out there. Second piece, they absolutely can't run the ball. There's 0% chance. I am not saying that they're going to run for 150 yards, but the way that the narrative is that Oklahoma is going to stuff them in a locker and just beat their brains in the trenches. If you take out sack yardage, they ran for 89 yards, gave them enough balance to be able to put them in manageable situations where the defense couldn't just
Stop.
pin
It
their
was
ears back.
one 35-yard run by Hill.
Now, I'm going to back up for a second. I think the injury concerns are very real. I'm not feeling super confident that Ty Simpson is 100%. If he's 80%, I'll probably take it. Am I going to get Jam Miller? I'm rolling the dice on those two things. I am against you guys. I'm not saying that Oklahoma is a bad play by any stretch, but I have to make a pick on this game. This is a playoff game. When I look at like all that we've just discussed in terms of the Alabama offense versus the Oklahoma defense, I've already seen them be able to move the football and be able to double their yardage. If you look at Parker Fleming's "Did we get beat that bad?" graphic, one of the most egregious differentials in terms of Power Four teams the entire season, yet they lose that game by two. On the other side, all of this ink spilled, in articles talking about how good the Oklahoma defense is. This offense is not good. And if they're put in a situation where Mateer does not pull a rabbit out of his hat and all of a sudden rushes for 60 or 70 yards, I don't have much faith in them at all to score more than 20 points in this game. And yes, Alabama has struggled with mobile quarterbacks, but it seems to me that Womack had a game plan that they executed and successfully kept Mateer in the pocket for the majority of the game. So in terms of like making jumps and seeing like, I'm hopeful that certain things are going to happen. It's really the injury issues. In terms of seeing it on film already, they've already done it once. Now, the home field advantage is significant. I think I would love to be catching points in this position. I think that the line is wrong, but I still think Alabama is going to find a way to win this one. I wish I was getting good plus money on this, but I'm not. I got to put my foot down between one of these two teams. I'm going to go with Alabama because if I look at Kalen DeBoer's performance in the postseason, back to his, national championships at the lower level, what he did at Washington, being able to really elevate them and against teams that essentially should have had a big talent advantage. Look at that Texas Sugar Bowl. He was able to scheme things together. He's going to be have to be deep in his bag on this one. The Michigan noise, the cloud isn't great. Another thing kind of trending against me here, but I still have faith in him as a play calling genius. That's the reason why he got the Alabama job in the first place. So I think they win a low scoring game. They're on the right side of some luck. Hopefully they don't get a freaking punt blocked. Because that's what actually cost me. I had this huge for the Action Network, huge same game parlay where I had under across the board punts on the opening drives for Georgia and Bama. All I needed was 300 total yards for the Georgia offense. They finished with 297 after a bunch of kneels at the end of the game. It was because they were constantly gifted short fields, including that block punt. So I'm going to go Bama. I've seen their offense succeed against this Oklahoma defense, and I still have my concerns about Oklahoma. I think they're a half team. They have an excellent defense, but they have to show it to me against this particular Alabama team.
Well, what does
The final
Bama
score
do?
when they won the
What does Bama do elite though? Like I don't even think Bama's elite anywhere. At least Oklahoma has an elite defense. I don't. But what does Bama do that is elite?
How then if they're not elite, which
I
I'm
know.
not
I don't
saying
think they
I'm
should
not
be in the
saying that they
playoff.
are this juggernaut offense.
They're like they're like the
Generate
15th best team in the country, in my opinion.
how did they generate 400 yards offense against this Oklahoma
I mean,
defense?
it's
I'm
one
not even
game. I
saying
mean,
this to be childish. I'm just
how
saying
did
like
how
put it
did
to Bama.
Georgia only put up 120 yards on Georgia Tech? I mean, it's one game. I got to look at the whole body of work. They should have lost at Auburn. They should have lost at South Carolina. They got blown out at Florida State, a Florida State team who was horrendous. Didn't even make a bowl. They could have easily lost
Mizzou.
at Missouri. I mean, this team could have had five
I
losses
mean,
this year.
in a lot of these cases, these games you're pulling, I'm going back to Jam Miller. I'm rolling the dice that this kid is going to play because he is a difference maker, not just in the run game, but also in the pass game, swing passes, being able to turn a 3-yard play into a 25-yard gain. He is somebody that needs to ball out in this game for them to hit their maximum, but they still hit north of 400 yards without him having a big game statistically. It wasn't him who got to the end zone twice out of that Alabama backfield. So it would be a cherry on top. I think I have to have it. But in terms of them being able to do it, I know it's one sample size, but like everything on the other side of the argument to me is that Oklahoma is going to dominate defense and special teams. They better, because if it's anywhere close to a draw in that situation, I think they lose this one.
Like I could say Alabama ran for -3 yards against Georgia. Oklahoma's run, it doesn't mean they're going to run for -3 yards here. It was one game. It also was at home in Tuscaloosa, where Alabama never loses, and they still lost. This is a different animal, extra rest. I don't know. Duck, do you have anything you want to add? Colin, anything?
I
Cherries
just
on top?
Alabama does not have Ole Miss's offense where they can come in there and push OU's defense around. I mean, Ole Miss had the weapons. This is not Trinidad Chambliss. I mean, so it's not going to happen.
Duck, anything you want to add?
I mean, I think we pretty well covered it, but it's
All right.
it's going to be fascinating television on December 19th.
Jam Miller under 25 rushing yards, Calabrese. All right. Before we get to our DK parlay, this is the comic relief part of the year, the entire year, not just the show. This is when Colin tells you to bet Army Navy over.
It's not comic. This is winning bets. This is cash.
Has this only hit once and when it went to like overtime?
It's hit once in the last year. Is that good enough? Look, I'm really disappointed that I opened up the podcast script and somebody in this group said under. All right. And let's just get into it. All right. Over. And I am not a communist for wanting points in Army Navy. All right. It's enough of that. But I said this last year. I said this 7 years ago when it was just you and me. And you and I had to upload into iTunes. There is going to come a point where this market gets so low where it's going to regress up. The key number in totals is 41 and 38. We passed 41 a long time ago. It's been years, right? Now we're hanging around. There's a 37.5 that popped on the board. Like, what is this number? These offenses are not the same. And frankly, everybody on this show, we've had conversations about what these new offenses are for Army and Navy. So why is that not applicable to this game? This is not your mama's triple option line up and bleed clock. That's not what this is. So, I mean, look, this Army's bottom 25 and so many defensive metrics. It's East Coast 3-4 that they run. All right. They can't defend inside zone, power, or counter. Navy runs all of those things. Blake Horvath, 23 all-purpose TDs. He's going to go crazy just like he did last year. Also, he had 13 fumbles this year. That could give Army supreme field position. That's chances for an over. Navy runs 8 different combinations of personnel and run concepts. That is not triple option with 12 and 13. 2 running back sets with power is the most explosive. Explosive? Yeah. Army's explosive. Have you seen this Helms kid? I'm sorry, both sides are. Horvath is explosive with Navy. Army's 39% and defending power and outside zone. Top 100 and outside the top 100 broken tackles allowed. Like Army's defense is atrocious. And Navy's going to do what they want. And Navy's 13th in red zone TD rate. They don't kick field goals. They get touchdowns. You go to the other side, Cale Helms is amazing for Army. He is a one-man show. 15 rushing touchdowns, 25 on the season for Army. He does it all for them. Navy can't defend outside zone. That's what Army runs. They give up an explosive play on 17% of opponent attempts. Army's going to have explosive plays on the ground. I don't know why this is so hard for everybody. This was the handicap last year. These offenses have changed. Triple option has gone from a 30% call down to like an 8% call for these offenses. They're more explosive. They've integrated other run concepts, and the defenses haven't gotten any better. I don't understand why everybody's not betting this over, but whatever. It's 1 of 1 in the last year. I'm glad it finally came through.
I mean, that was the first time they surpassed 41 points since 2010. I will say that their offenses are different, but last year, I mean, look.
Are the offenses
Army
not
Navy.
way better than the defenses? These two.
There was 11 completions in the game for like 150 yards.
Why are you looking at the passing attempts for these two teams?
Well, they also ran it. That's what I'm saying. The Army ran it 38 times for 100 yards. So
every play action attempt's an explosive.
I mean, they threw it. They averaged 4 yards per pass with 3 picks. And that was Bryson Daly. There's just a lot of familiarity. I don't know. The offenses are different. I said every year and I've said this for 10 years, you can't use a model to make these totals. I made the total 33 every year, and then would bet the under, and it started to come down to 33, 34. But now with these different offenses, I'm around like 37 and a half. So there's nothing for me to do here. I'd make this close to a touchdown on the spread, but I have too much respect for Army and the familiarity to bet the side. Always love this. I used to go to this game. My dad would take me when it was at the vet in the 90s. I got my Army Navy helmet back here. Breeze, you're gonna fight. I love the pageantry around it. I hate that there's a bowl game on the same day. It should be Army Navy game.
Yeah.
Uh, but it is what it is. Breeze, you're going with the history, not the year history, but the longer history. You're going with the under. You're fighting Colin here.
I am. I mean, I if you want apples to apples, if you want some examples from this year, Army played Air Force. I had a lot of respect for Air Force's offense, no respect for their defense. It was 20-17. Navy played Rice. Rice's defense stunk. It was 21-13. So there's ways in which these games can be
Bryce
mucked up.
Navy.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That
just
was ugly.
these matchups, it's easy
Bryce's
to look.
offense sucks. These offenses don't suck.
Rice's defense, though.
I think that Army is going to struggle offensively in this game, and you need two to tango on a total. You may think that Navy's going to just score 45 points in this game. That would truly be bucking the trend. And I look at Navy, their last performance against Memphis, that was the best the defense played the entire season. So I think the familiarity, I think that they are ascending defensively. I'm just going to play the under here, and I understand it's 1-0 since last year. You don't have to go back that far. When this total was set at 28 and a half, it still went under. This is a pure historic play, but at least I am basking in the recent history of some of these service academies playing the same year and it going under this number. And like I said, Air Force had an awesome offense. They were able to pass and run, and somehow Army was able to muck that one up. So I'm going to go under. You can dunk on me and everybody else who, says that you're wrong in this one and you're off and you got lucky last year. I'm just going to keep going with this trends because in terms of the energy, the effort, the extra attention that both of these defensive staffs put into this game, there's a reason why it's been pulling teeth to get over these closing numbers in the 30s for years. And I think we're going to see more of it on Saturday.
My favorite part of the Army Navy rivalry is the history, the pageantry, seeing all the troops, the song after, the celebrations, the respect. My second favorite is trolling Colin on Twitter when it's 0-0 in the second quarter, and then him praying for overtime. Duck, you're laying it with the mids.
Yeah, I mean, Navy dominated a much better Army team last season, and you just talk about a team that is so incredibly prepared to face the intimate nuances of this Army option style attack. I actually like what I've seen from Navy when they've played up this season. Defeated South Florida, defeated Memphis to close the season out, played Notre Dame tough for a half. When I look at Navy's rushing offense, they are much, much more explosive. 542 rushing attempts this season for 32.82, 6.1 yards per carry on the ground with 38 rushing touchdowns. Army's averaging nearly 2 yards per carry on the ground, less than that, with only 25 rushing touchdowns. Navy has the overall better run defense, even factoring in those games against South Florida, Memphis, and Notre Dame. And Army didn't face any rushing attacks nearly as potent as what those three opponents were to bring. Situationally, Navy is stronger, better on third down, much more efficient in the red zone. Red zone defenses are similar, but Army defensively, 121st in overall defensive success rate and 97th against the run. I do not think they are going to be equipped to stop Teska and Heidenreich and Horvath and what they want to do offensively for Navy. The Knights do not create any havoc. They don't generate pressure. They're not living in the opponent's backfield. And I just think the mids will get whatever they want here. I think this will be a game that we'll see. It could always start off slow like they always do. So if you like under first quarter, under 7.5, you could look that way perhaps. But the Army offense is just not as potent or as successful as we saw last year with Kanye Udo, with Bryson Daly. They're just not equipped with the explosivity that we've come to know and love from Army. So there's just these small little marginal increases of data that favor Navy, and it all leads up for me to I have no issue laying the points here. This could end up 14-17 and I get burned by laying some points here, but I'd be more inclined to think this is 28-10 than a closer game. I think Navy is a supremely more talented team this year.
28-11.
28-11.
28-10. Well, will that get it done for you, Colin? No, you need
Hey,
28-11.
I scooped the 37 half, but I'd still play 38. I'd play. Listen, Everybody needs to know I'm playing the over until the market settles at 41.5. All right. I'm gonna be doing this
All right.
podcast in 15 years, taking the over.
Before we get out of here, DraftKings Parlay Bowl Part One. If you missed it earlier, do you need a reminder? We have seven parts for our bowl preview. We will be recording Part Two, which includes the other three college football playoff games and I think 6 or 7 other bowls. We'll be recording Part Two a week from today. But before we get out of here, DK DraftKings Parlay for Bowl Part One. Your favorite piece? You don't have to explain anything. One sentence. Favorite bet from all the bowls we covered. Duck. Where are we going?
Old Dominion, highly motivated team. We're going to see the opt-outs continue to pour in for South Florida. Doctor's notes will be coming. Staff is already gone. I think Old Dominion gets their first bowl win for Ricky Ronnie.
Colin.
We're gonna go Missouri State, fifth-year quarterback, top 20 in rush and pass explosives.
And we're going money line because we're not laying
Yep.
1.5 against Arkansas State. And Breeze,
Jacksonville State +2.5. Cam Cook eats in this one. Kilcrease takes 5 sacks, couple turnovers. Go Gamecocks.
and I'm going to close it out with Oklahoma +1.5. Oklahoma wins 20-17 on a Sandell walk-off field goal. +1530 on DK. Old Dominion money line. Missouri State money line. Jacksonville State plus the points. Oklahoma +1.5. That'll do it for us. Thanks to Calabrese, Duck, Colin, our producer, David on the back end. If you have a chance, make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Leave a 5-star review. If you get a second, really helps us out. We will have you covered for every single bowl. Next week, this time, part 2 will be out. Enjoy the games. Make sure you move on. You're going to be wrong. You're going to be right. Just move on. Enjoy the games. I can't wait for every single college football game. Thanks for tuning in. Do you agree? We just have Oklahoma on there. Do you agree for everyone? Where there was no fight. Washington, Missouri State, the Western Michigan under. Can't wait for part 2. A lot of fun doing it with a group of 5 guys. Thanks for joining me again. We'll see you all next week. Cheers.
Peace out.